And the person I'm talking about is none other than Mr. Jakhongir Isomiddinov.
So it was difficult to communicate with mom. It was difficult to communicate with the people in Russia. So if one person makes me feel good for the time being, then that's the right person. That's what I used to think.
You know what, buddy? I'm gonna give you a hug after this podcast. Okay,
Yeah.
A brotherly hug.
Whatever trauma happens in your childhood, there is a certain part of the brain responsible for that keeps all of those memories. And he said that as you grow up, that part of the brain doesn't disappear. It repurposes itself. But one day it's going to just explode. In my life, it didn't explode. It was damaging everything in my life. The odds are against you. You know, the odds are against you.
I'm guilty of that too, right? And I tell them that by far the best way to memorize anything is
that he said that there was this guy who said, I'm not going to do whatever the thing is unless I can do it forever. Discipline is not the thing that's going to make you super successful in life. Imagine if Elon Musk, for example, created rockets 200 years ago. There was no fuel.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Astra Muse. I'm your host here again, Muhammad Ali, and today I brought another great guest on the show, and I'm so excited to be talking to this guy. And the person I'm going to be talking to today is my old friend, and you guys also might know him as Band Niner. And the person I'm talking about is none other than Mr. Jakhongir Isomiddinov, and thanks for coming here. Thanks for being on the show today, buddy. Yeah, it's
thanks
nice to
for
see
inviting me because you invited. I decided to come, and one of the reasons I decided to come by actually, to come to Bukhara was to see you, to have this podcast. Yeah, it was another reason to come. Yeah, but the main reason was to see my family. But I'm also very, very excited to be on your podcast.
Yeah. I'm sure today's episode is gonna be awesome because I got a bunch of questions I'm dying to ask you today. We're gonna dive deep into your life, into your career, into everything you've been up to lately, because I know you're working on multiple online projects right now. So and I'm sure our audience is also curious to know more about you.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you say we today start off with your background? Would you like to tell our audience a little about what you do at the moment?
Yeah, sure. So shortly about myself. So I was born in Bukhara. Yeah, but my parents left me when I was about 1 or 2 years old because they wanted to. They needed to work, but they couldn't take me. So I was about 1 year. I was 1 when they moved to Russia. Then they came back. I was about 2 or 3 years old. The interesting story behind this was that when my mom came back, I didn't recognize her. I didn't recognize my dad either. And
are you kidding me?
Yeah. I was 2 or 3 years old, and the moment when I started to do things consciously, it was always my at that time alive granddad and my grandma. So I used to call them dad and mom. Yeah, and everybody tells me that it was quite a story that my mom came and I would call her aunt. Yeah, and she would cry. She would cry because she couldn't, I guess, bear the pain of her own child calling her aunt, not mom. Yeah, it was an interesting story, but then they took me to Russia.
Okay.
And in Russia, it was different life. It was completely different life because for the first time I've seen white people, literally white people. I've never seen white-haired blondes, never. Even here in Bukhara, I don't think it was that common. But there, and they were speaking an alien language. Just so everybody know, my first language was Tajik, not Uzbek. I think it's common here in Bukhara.
Yeah.
And the village Kishlak I come from, it's common just to speak just Tajik. That's it. So it was difficult to communicate with mom. It was difficult to communicate with the people in Russia, because my mom she speaks Russian and Uzbek, and I could speak Tajik. Plus my friends all Russian, and I used to go to like a Russian kindergarten, and everybody speaks Russian. I guess I don't remember how difficult it was to adjust to that environment, like new people, but I remember the days that I remember that I spent, and the friends that I remember, like I could freely talk to them in Russian. Yeah. Then after about like 13 years of living in Russia, my parents decided like it's time to like call it a game. Enough of Russia. So they're sending me back to Uzbekistan. I come here. It's a huge culture shock coming from a place like Russia to Uzbekistan. Even Tashkent at the time wasn't nearly as developed as the place I was living in. And trust me, in Russia, I was living in like one of the least developed towns, but still was more developed than our capital, Tashkent. I came here, awful internet, like weird people. Everybody's weird.
So weird. How old were you at the time when you returned home?
2014, so 16 years old. So I was 16. Right. Yeah, I already had like a circle of friends, not really good ones. Like I had shady friends, and like the entire Russia for me personally, I felt like all of my friends that I had, they were shady, quite shady, because all of them smoked, all of them drank alcohol at one point or another. All of them were engaged at some point in some illegal activities because they used to consider it fun. Right. They used to consider it fun. For them, not smoking.
So you're saying Russian teenagers are pretty naughty?
The ones that I got to...
You grew up with.
The one that I got to grow up with, they were like that way. Yeah, it was weird. But so when I was coming back to Uzbekistan, I think I was expecting kind of like much lower standards of living. And I think I did see that it's much lower. Trust me, like the range of goods available, prices, salary, everything is like just I don't know. Everything was crappier. Everything, absolutely, everything but people.
Right.
That the only thing that set probably Uzbekistan apart for me in a positive light, it was the people. For the first time in my life, I felt like I could trust everybody because people were giving off a really, really like
positive vibes.
Yeah, like they do genuinely care about you. Because in Russia it was different. Like it's more of an individualistic society. In Uzbekistan, it's more like collectivist society. I don't remember the words. So collectivism here in Uzbekistan, I guess, does play a huge role in, played a huge role in developing my love for Uzbekistan. So when I came here, people really, really, I would say, what you say, like it's a very close-knit community, especially with family members. I guess you yourself know. I remember visiting one of those parties here, like family through, when you got into Westminster, and there were lots of people. And just one example. Yeah. It's a small example, but all the other like maracas, with weddings and birthday parties, I see like a lot of people coming, and this was the only thing that actually kept me, I would say, functioning in a healthy way, because all the other aspects like sucked big time. Internet bad, no money, and I used to work in Russia, so I had like a lot more pocket money there than the food.
What did you do there in Russia? What kind of jobs were you involved in?
I don't think it's bad, but with my dad, we used to like carry weights. So not weights, but we had like a stall, and not one, but like 20 or 15 stalls. And our job was to take out all the goods that those stalls were selling. So whatever they were selling, we would take it out.
Like move them around.
Yeah. So basically that's what we did. It was very manual labor, very, very labor intensive. But Surprisingly, I liked the job. I liked it. Again, I always attribute my, this attraction to any workplace that I like really enjoy working in. I always almost attribute this liking, this enjoyment to my extroversion. I'm very extroverted, and whenever there is a good community, like good people that I can talk to, that can share stories with me, I always feel incredibly happy. And that was the case. So the environment, the surrounding, the people around me, they were very sociable and always eager to help and always eager to share their stories. And I remember that my friends, they were all older than me, like 10, 15 years older than me. And they would tell me stories about their exes, about getting drunk. Yeah. And it was common. It's fine. But when I came to Uzbekistan, it was right the opposite. The opposite.
Normally, we don't talk about stuff like that because it's taboo.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But in Russia, it was fine. It was just fine. Like, going out with your friend for a cup of beer is fine. Yeah. Like just smoking cigarette. It's okay. It's common. It's a common thing. But again, most of those people, most of those friends, unfortunately, as far as my mom, she told me, she said that some of them got really drunk. They got into binge drinking. Some of them got lost. Some of them, I don't know what happened to them. They just lost. Yeah, it's weird. Like in Russia, the environment, however developed the society was, the culture itself, I wasn't really attracted to it. I wasn't pulled to it. Yeah.
Well, judging by the way you describe it, I feel like your upbringing was pretty tough. Like you had pretty tough upbringing.
It was an interesting upbringing. I feel like there was at times way too much supervision, but I guess that fear of my parents, I had fear. It helped me stay away from stuff like drugs, cigarettes, alcohol, being friends with the wrong people, because I was very little and I was basically driven by my emotions. So if one person makes me feel good for the time being, then that's the right person. That's what I used to think.
So like one of those impulsive teenagers.
I was very impulsive. I unfortunately and maybe fortunately I got into this really bad circle a few times, bad circles a few times. So what I did after getting into those, I stole money from my parents. I stole money from home, from their pockets. My parents themselves had a few shops. I stole money from those shops, and I think I never got beaten that much as I did when I was stealing money. I remember my dad would kick the living shit out of me, but for a reason though, right. For the right reason. And I don't know how to put it. Whenever I think about my childhood, it was like a recent discovery for me, that many of the stuff that I did, that my parents did, that I went through as a child, it's all manifesting itself right now.
Like in what way? How do you mean?
Yeah, let me put it this way. My parents left me when I was 1 year old. So basically, I was deprived of, as far as it's a theory. I feel like I was deprived of this. I needed that attachment. I needed physical affection. And I think you've noticed that, if you remember, the last time we were in Tashkent on that podcast with 4Niners, if you remember, you noticed that I gave you a lot of handshakes every time you said something that,
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that. And actually, every time I made a point, you kept agreeing, and you just shake my hand. Yeah. Every time
I feel like
I made a point, and it was kind of weird though. I kept thinking why does this guy do it? Maybe just a habit.
Touchy. I'm very touchy. Very touchy. I figured that I myself figured out. I'm very touchy because whenever I see my friends, I feel much better if I give them a hug. And I never like when people don't give me firm handshakes. I think nobody likes that. I feel like
yeah,
just firm handshake. I think it's fine, yeah. But then I noticed that whenever I see my relatives, I always give them a kiss to cheek or to forehead. Again, hugs. Absolutely love them. I know it might sound weird for some people, and it does sound weird for most people, but I don't have any like bad intentions under that. Yeah, there is nothing
like
to worry about for me personally, at least. And I do try to limit that what we'll call touchiness. But I think it developed when I was little. I was deprived of that like when I was 1 year old probably. I feel like that's when it started. And after that, it was about like 2 or 3 months ago. 3 months ago, I came to realize that I'm very touchy. And with a lot of people, with friends, with my girlfriend, with my family members. It's weird at times, but I try to stay open about it. Like especially with my family members.
Right.
Yeah, I always tell them about like this like weird trait of mine. That would be one. What else can I give you that?
I mean, before you move on, you know what, buddy? I'm gonna give you a hug after this podcast. Okay, a brotherly hug. Yeah, this is the least I can do to return the favor.
Thank you
for coming on the show today. Yeah, a brotherly hug.
Thank you. I appreciate it. One more example would be again, I might be making a mistake, but every time I made a mistake when I was little, I used to get shouted a lot. I used to get shouted at a lot, like a lot of times. So I drop a cup, I get shouted. I break something, I get shouted. I don't come back at the appointed time, I get shouted. So it came to the point where I was afraid of making mistakes. And it backfired, especially when I was preparing for IELTS and math. I was always afraid to make mistakes. I started like recently making content on Instagram. I think you know that, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
And it was difficult. It was difficult because every time I was making a mistake, we needed to like reshoot. For some reason, I was expecting like the videographer, producer, the guy who was writing scripts. For some reason, unconsciously, I was expecting them to shout at me internally. Yeah, there was this voice that was telling me, Jakhongir, let's make it perfect. Take some time. Let's reshoot it. Maybe we can even postpone the shooting itself, the filming itself until tomorrow. So I used to procrastinate a lot because of that. But as soon as I came to that realization that it actually is there, yeah, this I don't know what you call it. It's a buzzword, but childhood trauma. I think you've heard it a lot. Yeah,
that's actually the word I was gonna say. That's actually the expression I was just gonna use. Yeah, it's because you sound like you had this pretty tough childhood upbringing, and you had a bunch of traumatic experience that left huge scars,
probably
huge psychological scars.
But I don't want to over dramatize it. Again, I'm sure there are people who've gone through worse. Yeah, I don't want to invalidate their experience by saying that this was tough. No, I would say it's more like I do understand my parents. It's like their first time living this life too. They us just growing up, with the same thinking process, and they also make mistakes. But still, I have like a very very hard time forgiving them. Honestly, I'll be honest with that. I love them, absolutely love them unconditionally. Like whatever happens to them, like however much damage they do to me, I still love them. But I do understand that they did it unconsciously. They always wanted the best for me. I guess all parents want that. Yeah, at least in functional families. Yeah. But I wouldn't call it like tough, more like there were mistakes made and I'm working on them. I just like whoever like listening to this, if there is this childhood trauma, just know that looking for a person to blame, to put a blame on is not going to help you. I can like tell you this little story I've seen on Instagram reel. So there was this guy walking in the forest, and while walking, he unintentionally stepped on a snake. So the snake bites him. It's a poisonous, like a venomous snake. And the guy, as soon as he stepped on it, like stepped off the snake kind of ran away. And the guy started chasing after the snake, trying to explain to that snake that he didn't really deserve to be bitten, instead of trying to find an antidote to the venom. So for a long time, I was that guy. Yeah, I was constantly arguing with my parents, blaming them for everything bad that happened in my life. Not like everything, but for some of the things that happened in my life. But I figured out that it doesn't really help. It doesn't help. It doesn't help at all, because most of the time you see, like in our Uzbek culture, in a typical, like a conventional, traditional Uzbek culture, or typical Uzbek family, parents usually have this, they put in their children this mindset, like parents never make mistakes, and whatever they say, you have to do it. You must obey. Yes?
Yeah.
That there is a lot of it. And I understood it. I realized it, and it helps. And I try not to like prove my parents wrong, because I understand it doesn't lead anywhere. Like it doesn't lead anywhere. I need to stop it. Yeah. And it was interesting. Like I came across that, Andrew Huberman. And it was such a relief to have him talk about trauma. I think you haven't seen that episode?
Not that one.
So there is an episode on trauma. He talked about trauma and how to like deal with it. And the interesting stuff with trauma. So basically, when I was little, I didn't get breastfeed as much as I probably wanted or needed to, and that's why I developed this, very weird, touchy trait in myself. What he said in his podcast is that so whatever trauma happens in your childhood, there is a certain part of the brain responsible for that keeps all of those memories. And he said that as you grow up, that part of the brain doesn't disappear. It repurposes itself. So basically, whatever trauma you had in your childhood, as you grow up, it transforms itself into something else. And a good example that he gave, he said that girls that grew up with abusive fathers who would, for example, abuse them, beat them, shout at them, he said that more often than not, those girls grow up to be attracted to those bad guys who abuse them. So because it's one way to bond with that caretaker, which is weird. Like brain is weird.
All right, buddy, you know what? I'm just sitting here listening to you recount your past experiences and just realizing that I don't actually know you, because there's all these years we've been friends. Not even once did you bring up any of these topics, right?
Let's talk about this.
Right. Like, because guys, I am as shocked as you are listening to this guy's stories, because that makes this podcast really exclusive. Like, because you coming on the show and being vulnerable and sharing with people this side of you, no one knows except you and maybe your parents. That takes a lot of courage, buddy. I don't think I'd ever be able to, put myself in the spotlight and talk about my vulnerabilities. But well, that's just why.
I hope it helps. Like again, whoever is listening to this, one of the takeaways is that whatever like trauma you have, you need to find a way to deal with it. But again, pinning that blame to somebody is not going to help. And talking about that, like you said that you never talked about it. The problem is like we never ask, unfortunately. Again, it's a cultural thing. It's a generational thing. I don't know. But I recently started talking about. I'm just open. I try to be as open as possible. And I think it did actually have a really good impact on my life, because most people started saying just one thing. That I'm kind of a very sincere guy. That's what they call me. In Uzbek, they say like samimi. Many people, when I ask them how would you describe me, they usually use that word sincere. I would say more like I try to be open about stuff, so that people know if I act weird, they know the reason why. So. Yeah, but in our culture, I don't know, maybe you give me your thoughts on this. Here in Uzbekistan, it's not like really common for people to talk about their vulnerabilities in overall,
No,
because
it's not, sorry for cutting you short, but it's not just in Uzbekistan. Turns out it's the case in many cultures. And here's one instance, one example. So a few weeks ago, I was looking up videos for my class on language learning, and then a video popped up on my YouTube recommendation page, the results page. And it was basically by a guy who was talking about one major mistake made by non-natives. And he gave this really weird analogy. He talked about this concept that exists in Italian, and it's about our psyche, human psyche. So there's basically two versions of us. In Italian, they call version one the figura bella, which means the perfect side of us is the version we want to show the world. This is the version that we want other people to see. And then there's the other one called the figura bruta. It's the brutal side of us. It's the side that we hide from other people. It's the one that it's the version of us at home when we wear our pajamas and we're all comfortable and when we let our guards down, right? And so the concept he was explaining, he tried explaining it using this situation that happened in Spain when their prime minister came on the stage and tried speaking English, but she made a mistake, a pronunciation mistake, and the next day everyone was talking about it. Because everyone expected that person to be perfect. Everyone expected that person to be ideal, right? And because of this, societal expectation, we are less quick to open up. We try to show the world on Instagram, on social media, our figura bella is the perfect shape of our perfect version, and we're afraid to show the world our brutal version, but it's actually not necessarily a bad thing that we try hiding our insecurities and our flaws and imperfections. But sometimes it's to the point where they start hurting us than help us, where it's not ideal. Like sometimes, like when I'm in the classroom teaching, those days when I'm not comfortable with my imperfections, whether it's in English, in terms of my English or my personality, I do have some character flaws too. Those are the most painful days. It's as if I'm pretending to be someone. I feel like an imposter. Mm-hmm. But the days when I just come in and say, okay, this is who I am, leave it or take it or leave it, right? If you don't like me this way, then you don't probably deserve me. And those are the best days, right? So it's not really Uzbek thing. I think it's common to most cultures out there. Like only a few cultures where people actually like it when you're authentic. People actually like it when you're honest, where honest is the best policy, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
But I do agree though it's this concept of holding back, right, and not being so open about your insecurities is more profound, like in Asian cultures, like because we tend to be more reserved and we're
first impression.
Right,
we think about that.
Right.
Yeah. I heard about like Japanese. I often have this Japanese shorts popping up on my YouTube shorts, and there is this guy, some Japanese. I don't know who. I don't remember his name. He often interviews foreigners and like locals in Japan, asking questions about their experience living in Japan. And he says many foreigners said that Japanese people kind of two-faced, that they would tell you like the nicest things, they like very polite with you when they like seeing you face to face, but they can say like really weird things behind your back. He said like that's how it works. And right now you reminded me of that. And yeah, in Uzbekistan that happens a lot. Just yesterday, I asked like my mom a few other like family members. So we were sitting, and I asked mom like one question, like very obvious one. And she said that never asked that question. And my uncle, who is like a kind of,
if that's not a secret, would you ask your mom? If that's not a secret, would you ask your mom?
Ask what?
What did you ask your mom?
No. It was it was a question. The question was about like Ramadan. Like so, yeah, the months of Ramadan. An obvious question, like when is it starting? It was something like that. And she said like that's an obvious question. Don't ask it. And I remember, and my uncle jumped in, like straight jumped in. He said like, why are you saying that? Who cares? Who cares? He gets his question answered. That's what really important. And I remember like two instances in my life. First is when I was growing up, one of the things that my parents, I don't know, they didn't like it, or probably they didn't know how to answer my questions, but they always asked me and always told me not to ask questions. And it was weird. It was weird, especially questions about like smoking, alcohol, because I would see my dad smoke and drink, and I was like, why my dad is drinking and smoking, but I cannot? Isn't this a sort of hypocrisy? Yeah. And then I would ask questions about, let's say, God. Yeah, I would ask questions like why God exists, why is he there, and they would say like, don't ask these questions. And after some time, I like again came to realize that probably my parents just didn't know the answers to these questions themselves, and instead of letting their ego go and saying I don't know, they would just shut me down immediately, and it still happens. And I guess again I feel like it's probably their childhood trauma too, because when I talked to one psychologist, I got to talk to them, and I'm really like happy for that, because they opened my eyes to like a lot of stuff. They actually started saying that, Jakhongir, it's all happening because when you were a child, there were some things happening in your life that, started all of this. Yeah, and I wanted to talk about that many people in Uzbekistan, they're really scared of like looking stupid to others. But it's when you look stupid and look that sincere, then people start kind of relating to you. Yeah, it's more relatable to be flawed, to make mistakes. Because I made like a post, like a really long post, I remember, like just like months ago on my channel, where I was saying that I was constantly failing throughout my life, like a lot of failures, a lot of them, and people liked it. Like there were a lot of positive feedback on that. People were saying like, yeah, that's what life is for most of them, that this is exactly what most of them are going through. And I was like, yeah, that's what life for most people is. It's a lot of failures, it's a lot of tries, yeah, and just admitting that this is just a natural part of your life, of our life. It makes it so much easier to live, because I guess you need to be setting this bar reasonably low, yeah. Like for yourself or for other people. For me personally, it's how it works. Yeah. But I hope that in the future we'll be able to like talk more about whatever happens in our life, because it was one of my uncles who told me that, Jakhongir, you need to talk. You can't bear all of that inside and expect it to just disappear. It's like, what do they call it? Like gathering, collecting all of those skeletons in your wardrobe. But one day it's going to just explode. In my life it didn't explode. It was damaging everything in my life, because I wasn't asking questions. I wasn't confident in myself. I was always looking for like reassurance when I didn't need to. I didn't need that, but my parents always like brought me up in a way where I needed to ask permission first and do something. And oftentimes when I was a child, I wouldn't do that actually. Yeah, I would not listen to my parents. I would do like the right opposite. I don't know how it works, but brain works in like very surprising way. I think I watched a video which said that if you try to refute like an argument, that it's actually doing right the opposite. You're not getting that person to change their opinion. They actually start to disagree with you more. They try to try to prove their point even more convincingly. That was interesting overall. Yeah.
I'm really glad that you made all these realizations and got the help you needed, and you've become clearly very self-aware, and that you've made all these observations, and that you're doing the self-work that it takes to rebuild yourself. But now many people out there who have gone through the similar situations, have gone through similar problems in the past, come to these realizations, and sadly they let these traumas get the better of them, right?
My family is a good example.
And start, victimizing themselves.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So it was, eye-opening at the same time, so fascinating listening to your childhood experiences. Now we got it on tape. We got it on, we got it on the record. So what do you say we move on to IELTS? Because I know a lot of our viewers here would like to hear your story of how you got into IELTS and what it's been like for you to, to go from amateur level from 0 to all the way to Band 9, right? So where did it all start? What got you into IELTS?
I think it was like my circle of friends. Everybody was studying IELTS. Everybody was taking IELTS, and I was like, what am I not fitting in this image? I gotta fit in, and I started studying it.
Yeah.
And I guess not most, but many people probably starting out this way, like just everybody's studying IELTS, so I have to.
So it was, you would say, mostly peer pressure.
Peer pressure. I've seen other people studying it, and I was like, let's do it. I'm afraid. I don't want to admit, but I think I have to admit that probably there was nothing else I was good at the time. Like it was 2016 when I started, and I did try to study physics. I did try to study chemistry. I did try to study math, but I sucked. It sucked. Again, I feel like it wasn't like the fact that it sucked. It was like more I kept making mistakes again and again and again, low results again and again. But I needed somebody to tell me that was natural part of the studying process. You make mistakes at the beginning, you suck. That's how beginner's journey start. Yeah. But I'm afraid that at the time I was just not good at anything else other than English. I had pretty solid level when I was in Lyceum, third year, last year student. Then I visited so many different courses, so many different centers, so many different teachers, and I was so ill-disciplined, no discipline at all. But as soon as I found Juraev's courses, Millennium, I think Mr. Juraev saved my life at the time, because they were really strict with students. They demanded homework. They always required us to be on time and stuff, and it really helped a lot. So I started out in 2016 September, and I even remember it was September 9. So September 9, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, and April. So I took IELTS at the end of April, starting from a solid intermediate level, because I remember the book ELS, I knew it by heart, all of the words. So it was solid, very solid intermediate, at least upper intermediate, the list. So I took IELTS, got 7.5, was happy with that, retook it, got again 7.5. But again, there is such a crazy story behind me retaking IELTS second time. It was awful. Honestly, it was awful. Then I didn't get into university first year, so I had to study one more year, math. I studied math for one more year. You guys actually were first year students when I was here studying math. Got into Westminster, started working with you, if you remember, Direct Center in Mirjalov.
Yeah.
Started working there, retook IELTS again, got an 8. Then kept teaching. And again, I feel like one of the reasons I stayed in that field, it was I was afraid to be beginner, to start something new, some IT, video editing. I was too afraid too afraid. Then, for 4 years, I was like studying at university, finished it, and kept teaching. And I figured out that maybe teaching is not for me, but I also don't want to do economics. I started this Forex trading stuff, didn't work out, failed.
Oh, there was actually one time you tried to get me into trading too.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, I remember you asked like if you like make your first withdrawal, you can contact me.
Right.
But I did actually make a few withdrawals. I make a little money, but the overall loss, it was too much. It was unbearable. Then again, it's really, it feels really bad admitting this, but I feel like there was nothing else I could do after failing in trading than go back to teaching IELTS.
So before you move on, a real quick question. So what would you say to all those students out there who are trying to get into trading? Would you say it's a good choice?
Risky, very risky. The problem, I haven't seen anybody in Forex trading who are making money exclusively from trading itself. Most people are making money from selling courses that teach how to trade. Unfortunately, that what happened with me. I worked with those people, and I haven't seen like a single person buying McLaren or Lamborghini just because they trade really well. No, all of those Lamborghini owners, all of them used to sell courses, and they actually themselves, some of them, not all, some of them themselves said that they're making 4 or 5 times as much money from selling courses as from trading.
Yeah, because I know there are a bunch of teenagers out there who see those get-rich-quick videos on social media, and they think trading is the way out.
Yeah.
So they think it's like lottery, right? Hoping to hit the jackpot.
I'm not sure about the jackpot. Just saying that I haven't seen a single case. Okay, I haven't seen a single person who was making a solid amount of money from trading itself only. Okay, there were people who, I'll be honest, Mohammed, there were people who, like in front of my eyes, would make like $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 a day. They would make it. They withdrew their money. There were people who didn't lose, but there wasn't a single person who lived this life in a sustainable way. Okay, either those people who made a lot of money, they disappeared, or then lost their money. That's what I saw.
So the net gain is anyway going to be negative.
Not anyway highly likely going to be negative, because again, I've seen people who are making money, but they're not rich. They're not super rich. It's a risky game. Those people actually said, like, however much you're ready to risk is however much you're going to make. You want to make, a lot of money, you got to risk a lot. That's how it worked. Yeah. But my advice would be just study it. Don't buy all that BS that some of the Instagram super pooper trader influencers are trying to sell to you. That with my course you're going to achieve this. No, none of that happened with me, because there were some of my friends bought really solid courses, really good ones. I've seen that their system worked, but again, not sustainable.
Right. So you would say it's no different than gambling, right? You might as well just take that money with you and go to a casino and bet all your money on the Russian roulette or something, and your chances of winning
pretty low.
Yeah,
because
anyway.
The entire market is against you. It's stacked against you, because I don't know. I felt like there wasn't like a person behind the computer sitting and waiting for Muhammad Ali to to buy or sell. I felt like it's just very unpredictable. Again, Muhammad Ali, there were guys making money, but one or two. But I've seen thousands of people.
Right.
Okay. It's like the odds are against you. The odds are against you. Okay. You're not going to make a lot of money, at least within a short period of time, because I've seen like the guys who are in the game for like 3, 4, 5 years, and they were making money, but again, very little amount, and still selling courses.
Right.
So back to that IELTS. Again, I'm afraid I feel bad for that, but I felt like there was no other escape. Nothing else I could do. I remember I even opened a channel. I texted you actually, to make a repost. You said no, and I was like, I felt really bad, honestly. Again,
Like,
it was completely different, Jakhongir. It was
right. No hard feelings, but at the time, you didn't have much content on your channel.
Yeah, nobody
So-
would subscribe. Basically, even
Right.
if people like subscribe, they would leave the channel immediately. There was no point in in making that repost.
But I kind of feel like that rejection was what fueled you. What was what pushed you?
Yeah, I
made
was
you
like,
wanna do
I'm
something
gonna
about
show
it.
Muhammad Ali. Okay, I'm gonna make him, regret his choice. Like kind of that kind of, things were going through my mind, and I started studying like really hard. So for anybody wondering, so I came back to teaching around May, and immediately immediately registered. I took my IELTS and I got an 8. After an 8, I studied for about a month, then retook it and again didn't get the score I wanted. I got the score I needed, I guess. I got triple nines and a 7.5 and I was super happy, like super happy.
I mean,
And
it's no joke pulling off a bad 9 in speaking, right?
yeah, I was happy, really happy.
And a quick disclosure here, guys. I've lately been taking the test. I've been doing it. I actually, in fact, I said the test probably 10 times after my last 9. And only a couple of times I got 9 in speaking. All other times it was 8.5. And the reason why I'm telling you this, it's not easy getting a bad 9 in speaking. And I don't know if I do admit some of those attempts were failed attempts because I don't think I did the best I could. Yeah. But even on those days when when I think I got it, it came out 8.5 anyway. So which makes me wonder what I could do more to get that band 9. So it's no easy joke. It's not easy job pulling off band 9 and
Yeah, I
speaking.
feel like at a certain point in your IELTS journey, like if you're a teacher like you and me, and we already have like a solid level of English, I think it's all just matter of a little bit of luck, helping us a little and get that 9 because you were like very close. Big Zotaka was very close. And I felt for you guys, that matter was like just getting the right question, getting the right reading passage, getting the right questions in your speaking. Because your level for me personally was already at 9. It was perfect. Yeah. Writing, I saw like your essays and task 1 reports. They were all 8 above. Speaking, for me it's 9. But I don't know. I feel like sometimes like examiners get subjective in when they're evaluating your performance, speaking performance. Unfortunately, but I saw like a post, if you remember, that there was this Australian guy who made the post who said like they go through standardization training, but it doesn't mean that there is no subjectivity when they assess you. So it's possible, but I feel like the contribution is so little. And many students, after like getting a 6 in speaking, they at the end they blame their examiners. It's like my examiner, he sucked. It's his fault. Yeah, he wanted, he wanted me to fail.
He kept interrupting me.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah,
and I was like,
excuses.
take it easy. In most cases, they do listen to you. They don't really want to take their certificates revoked. They don't really want to go through retraining. They don't want to pay all of those penalties because they end up actually getting retrained. If there are too many guys who getting their band scores changed after appeals, EORs. Because if you remember during the podcast, like Akmalika said that if the examiners like make too many mistakes, they're going to have to go through retraining.
Oh yeah, there are consequences for bad judgment in the IELTS speaking. So, yeah.
Back to that IELTS. So I got triple nines and a 7.5. The thing that actually I don't know, maybe it's destiny, I don't know. Maybe it's luck, whatever you call it. So I called Alisher. Alisher like figured out I got triple nines and 7.5. He was like, you have to appeal. That's what
yeah,
he said.
yeah. Because if you don't, then you're always gonna wonder if this possibility.
0.5, just
Yeah,
0.5.
yeah. Like, why didn't I do that? It's just regret.
He said that. He said that.
Over
he
your
said,
head. You just can't help think if what would happen if it got upgraded, right? If your score changed.
Yeah, yeah. And for your information, at the time I just left trading, what happened is that I actually had to borrow money to leave because I didn't have any. So I borrowed from our friend, mutual friend Jakhongir. I borrowed like $3,000 from him to live on for the next few months. So what happened is, again, I was running out of money. I had at that time like around $1,000 left, and I remember like the first months when I got back to teaching, my first salary was like 275,000 soms. Yeah, I was shocked. Not shocked. I knew that I'm going to get paid like really low because I had like 3 students or something.
But you probably weren't expecting that low, right?
Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. And I was like, it's fine. I kept working, all the way. I said to myself, like, just be patient. At these times, your emotions run high. They do get close to getting better of you. They can get better of you. But I was like, Jakhongir, you've watched so many videos about stoicism. You watched so many videos with Jocko Willing. You watched so many videos with David Goggins. They keep telling you, like, just put your emotions aside. At times, it's better to put them aside and just do what you gotta do. Just do it. And I think at some point I told myself that, Jakhongir, it's time to start putting into practice what you've been watching. You've been consuming so much content, and it's time to just, practice what you preach, practice what you watch, practice what you consume. And I said just put my emotions aside, problems at family, because I wasn't providing for my family. And basically me and my brother were the only breadwinners, and I wasn't providing it, so my brother was the one who had to provide, and he couldn't either. And I was constantly arguing with my mom, with my brother, with everybody at work, because I was always constantly on edge, But I told myself, like, I gotta start being a little bit more stoic in my life. Just did it. And when Alisher called, I called him. He said, like, you gotta appeal. And I was like, let's do it. Like, if I lose money, so just be it. I appealed. 2 weeks went by, still no answer. And I'm very anxious. I don't know what's going to happen. But I knew that if it's a 9, it's a game changer. I wait another week. It's still not out. And I was about to change my workplace. I wanted to leave Thompson and go and work somewhere else. And what happened is that I applied for a position in Internation. They rejected me. I applied for a position in IELTS. They rejected me. I have no money. I got rejected everywhere. At work I got such a low salary. So I'm at the bottom, literally at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So there is nothing deeper. You're not going to go any more down than that. And all of a sudden, my results out. I was teaching a class of 5 students in a small classroom, and the moment I saw the part where it said your score has changed, I was on cloud 9. That's how they, I guess, put it. I was ecstatic. I was super happy, incredibly happy. I felt like that's going to definitely change my life for the better. It did, because all of that started with Telegram channel. It blew up. Then offers. I started to get offers, really nice offers. And the good thing about all of that is that 9 was kind of it kind of validated some of my feelings about myself. I always thought that I don't have many students because I suck at teaching. But it turns out it's not that I suck. It's more like I didn't believe in what I taught, really. And this 9 was like a sign that, Jakhongir, like your English is really good. You did exactly in your exam, you did exactly what you were teaching in your classes. And students started to come, pour in, like way more students. And I felt with that 9, I felt more confident, man, like really a lot more confident. I feel like in many cases when people fail and people cannot perform at the level that they want to, it's just because they don't feel that level of confidence. I don't know, for whatever reason. I didn't feel it. But as soon as I got a 9, I was like, Jakhongir, yeah, it's your time to shine. I started teaching, and I remember the best thing was that understanding that whatever I was teaching in my classes, I did apply it in my exam. I was teaching them to learn sample answers, and if you remember, I told you in my exam, I retold, like literally almost word by word, the same sample answer. In my essays, I teach students to write in one order, and I did the same. It helped a lot, like, yeah. After that 9, I started to get many offers, and in Uzbekistan, you understand, it's a huge industry, yeah? IELTS, it's a huge industry, and I became kind of a celebrity in a way. And for some time, I felt like I started to get arrogant. I felt it when I was having like a speaking session with one of my like acquaintances, and he said, like, you know that the way you speak, it changed. And I was like, what do you mean? They didn't say, but I kind of understood it. Like, Jakhongir, I think you are, you're really being arrogant. You think like you the best. I didn't let some people speak when I needed to. That was the sign. Because I thought I knew better than other people. Yeah, but again, this, as you said, like self-awareness thing, as soon as I understood it, I started working on it. I said, like, no, you shouldn't really be doing this. You need to, take it down a notch. Even if not a notch, but take it down a little. And then I started to understand that arrogance doesn't really help at all. There are things in life, like, situations in life when being arrogant actually helps, but it wasn't that time. Yeah. Yeah, then I got, again, many offers. My channel blew up. I was really happy. And yeah, that's the story behind me, getting that 9, all of those things.
I can really relate to the part where you said that you got a little, cocky after you got a 9, because I'm guilty of that too, right? Whether or not I want to admit it, it just makes you think that you're just different and special, even when you're not, and that we're all not that different after all, and that having perfect English doesn't make you, or having native like English doesn't really make you a special person, because there are literally 1 billion people on the planet who can speak English perfectly better than we do, right? So it just, because of, I think, once you get that 9, people just put you on a pedestal, just treat you different, and that different treatment kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that you start thinking of yourself as some special guy, right? But when in fact we're just teachers, like we're not that different after all, and that we're all humans, right? Yeah. Like even for a moment we get euphoric, right? We think too highly of ourselves, and it kind of corrupts us from inside, from within. I literally experienced that happen to me, and I did the best I could to keep myself grounded, to keep my personality, my ego in check, but sometimes you just can't help it, right? And I had to learn it the hard way, that I had to, and this is the realization that some part of me was changing, because I was in the spotlight and I was getting all that good treatment, and it it kind of led to it kind of pushed me to the point where I kind of lost touch with reality, right? And then when I would talk to people, we wouldn't exactly click, right? We would have completely different energy. Would be, I think you kind of develop like this snob attitude when everyone starts treating you different. Like, so, yeah, I prefer it when people are upfront. I prefer it when people are honest with you. I prefer it when people treat you just like everyone else, not differently because you got a 9. Right, and it's not like we built a rocket or something, right? It's just a standardized test, and it's just a result.
Yeah.
And something else I constantly tell my students in the class when they tell me that I got a bunch of 9s and that everyone talks about me. What I tell them is, it doesn't matter how many 9s I got in the past. What matters is what I can do for you right now. If I can't provide any service, if I'm not of any use to you in some form or fashion, then I'm no good, right? It doesn't matter if I'm the top celebrity or the smartest teacher in the world. If I can't help, if I can't be of service to you, then I have no use. I have no value. So in that sense, it's best to stop treating people based on what everyone else thinks of them, but rather start treating them based on what they can do, or how they can serve their community, how they can serve other people.
But it's difficult for people to understand that. It's difficult. It's the facade that's important, okay? It's the opinion that's important. It's the words that you're saying that's important. That's the way you look that's important. It's not what you do that it's important anymore. Unfortunately, especially with the rise of social media platforms, I guess it's no longer important. Like it's not really important anymore what you really think and do. It's what you show people that you do that's important. I've seen it. I see it, man. Trust me, I see it. I can post I don't know. I can send you on your card 10 million sums, hide your name, screenshot the check, send it on my channel and send that I helped some poor guy. Yeah, I can open another account, write a message and say, thank you, Jakhongir, really great. Yeah, people will be happy. And I think I can understand those people. I mean, if you post something like that and I see it and I'll be like, yeah, that's awesome.
He must be a good guy. He must be a nice guy.
Yeah, and it's how it works. It's easier for people to judge the book by its cover, then open and read all the 300 pages, reread the book, make conclusions, make summaries, because it takes time, man. It takes time. But as soon as you realize that, I guess it comes with self-awareness. I guess that's very important. I really like the quote that Diorbek recently he quoted somebody. He said that self-awareness is inversely correlated with envy. The more you understand yourself, the less you start to compare yourself with others. The more you understand yourself, less comparison.
Oh yeah, it's really deep.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
I think Jordan Peterson in one of his videos, he said that the older you get, the more idiosyncratic your life gets. The more different you are from other people, and the less you should be trying to compare your life to others. And it was kind of an eye-opener. But I don't know, you still end up comparing yourself. Not you, me. I still end up. And I try to cope with that by studying those people. And I figure out that, if I see, for example, your brother with a car, I was like, it must be really nice to have a car. But as soon as I figure out that your brother, let's say he's a jerk, let's say he's not in a happy relationship, or he's not looking after his health, yeah, I'm like, yeah, there is a price to pay for some stuff in your life. There is always a price to pay. The question, are you ready to pay the same price that the person did pay to get to that level? Again, I feel like there is always a price you pay, always. Right. That helped me with that, comparison and envy.
Okay. Well, I kind of feel like we went off on a tangent here because we started off with IELTS, right? What do you say we get back to IELTS and share with our audience some, technical knowledge and technical stuff, some tips. So, would you like to share a few tips on improving reading, listening, writing, and speaking, and preferably in this exact order? What do you say we start off with reading?
I guess it's that I can again base everything off my personal experience.
Sure.
So what really helped me a lot is, if you remember back in the day, and I guess it's still the case right now, you remember that we used to submit vocabulary notebooks every time, every class.
Okay.
Yeah. If you fail, you retake it. You're not going home until you successfully pass it. Excuse me. And I think a huge part of my success, at the beginning when I got a 7.5, it was vocabulary in the reading part, because it wasn't time management. You're not the time manager, because guys say, I have problems with time management. No, you have problems with understanding the passage. You read it very slowly. You don't understand what you read. You will struggle with answering the questions. It takes a ton of time to answer one question because you don't understand what's going on in the passage. That's the problem, vocabulary. You're not understanding, or what they call it, comprehension. Yeah.
So I feel like, would you like to also share a quick tip on how to learn vocabulary? What do you think is the most effective way to learn vocabulary?
Purpose. If you have a sense of purpose, you have a really good, strong sense of purpose and goal at the end, you're going to learn it in any way. But if you're asking any specific way, what I did when I was preparing for us the last time. So I took the words, all the new phrases, collocations, and made a list. Take that list of words, put it into ChatGPT, and the way you explain in one of your lessons, I asked it to give me simple definitions with 2 sample sentences. Did it? I knew what those words meant, so I know the definitions. Second step, I took those words and had ChatGPT make gap filling exercises with those, or quizzes. First quizzes with all of those words.
I didn't know that. So you can generate quizzes on ChatGPT.
Yeah, but
that's cool.
You need to experiment a few times because sometimes it gives you some really off, completely off-topic questions. I did that. I completed the quizzes myself. After completing the quizzes, I was I need to do something else. I don't really like just writing everything down on my notebook and reading it. It sucks, man. It's so boring. And I was I need to do something else to keep my brain active and repeating everything that was written. Then I asked ChatGPT, after having a list of gap filling exercises, I had it make a list of task completion exercises. So after quizzes, task completion exercises. So basically, sentence with a word missing, I need to figure out which word out of all of that list, out of the list of words that I had, I needed to put in. Then at the end, I check it. If I make a mistake, good for me. The more mistakes I make, the better I remember those words. It's actually those words that I don't make mistakes with that I struggle to remember. I don't know how my brain works, but it's make some weird connections in my brain, and I remember those words that I make mistakes is usually better.
So in simple words, students can use ChatGPT to make a word list and even quiz themselves with the help of ChatGPT.
And then make a task completion exercise, gap filling exercise to wrap everything up. And by the time you do that, you will have repeated all of those words at least 10 times. Second way would be to use Enki Droid. I think you've heard of it.
No, not really. What's that?
A really cool app. So you can open a folder. Let's say it's folder called, you call it the name of the passage you're getting all of those words from. Let's say it's education. Called education. Insert all of the new words, but every time you insert, you also need to provide a definition.
Okay.
So you did it, finished. So word, definition, next word, definition, next word, definition, next word, definition. Finish it. And after that, that app will quiz you. Yeah, it will show you the word, but you need to figure out what was the definition.
So based on all the entries you made on the app, right?
Yeah.
So what would you call this app again?
N-Key Droid.
N-Key.
But for Androids, for iOS, I think it's paid.
Mm-hmm.
But it's basically a flashcard. It's something like a flashcard.
Mm-hmm.
So how it works, I like the way it works. So whenever there is a word, you need to write down the definition. Mm-hmm. And you need to write down definition word by word. That's the bad part and also the best part. So if you don't write it word by word, it's going to count it as a mistake. So you see the word, you write down the definition, and then you press open the answer. It opens the real definition of the word, and you look. And if you think that was easy to remember, there are 4 buttons. One, it says that easy to remember. The other one says hard. The third one says very hard. The last one says didn't remember. And actually, each one of them has different time frames. So the one that says you easily remembered it will show this word in this folder after a few days. If it was a little harder, then it will show this word after about an hour. It was really hard, it will show this word after a minute, and you again need to write down the definition. So it's kind of spaced repetition.
Got it. So you get more frequent notifications based on how easy or hard it is for you to recall the word.
That was really fantastic. You need to experiment with the app and need to study it, because there are some really interesting, cool features. Mm-hmm. And because after some time, after repeating those words a few times, and by few I mean 2 or 3 times, in about 2 or 3 days, those words will not pop up at all. They'll disappear. Again, I guess they did some kind of study and figured out that sometimes you don't need to repeat the words as much as you need to, as much as you think you need to, and sometimes repeating it just a limited number of times is okay. And again, if you go through all of the features, you can again retrieve those words, because again they disappear completely from the app, because the app thinks that you've learned the words.
Yeah, that's super cool, right? So can you spell out the app real quick for
ANKI DROID.
Got it. So sure, got it.
That would be what I would suggest for speaking. Just to try and find ways to expand your vocabulary. What was the second section?
Right, but before we move on to the second section, I also want to share with students a quick tip for memorization, right? This is something I get asked a lot. So they ask me, what's the best way to learn something and never forget, right? And what I tell them is they should ignore all the tips they're getting on social media on active recall, or using flashcards, all these different techniques. And I tell them that by far the best way to memorize anything is curiosity. You just have to get intensely curious about the subject matter, whether it's education or transportation, whatever passage you're doing. If you just become actively curious about that topic, there's no way you'll forget the words there.
Can you get that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you become curious?
Yeah. So even if you're not curious about a topic, say you get the least interesting topic, a really boring one like history, right? There's a passage on the collapse of Polynesians in some far-off island, like you're probably never going to go to in your entire life, or you're probably never going to be... you're not really interested in that topic, in that subject, but you can pretend to be interested in that topic. You can actually get yourself excited by telling yourself, well, guess what? One day I'm going to go to Polynesian islands and see their monuments there, or I want to learn more about their history, right? So curiosity, I think, really does the trick when it comes to memorizing anything. Like, think of it this way. It's like watching your favorite movie, right? So when was the last time you watched a movie?
Not that long ago, like a week ago.
Okay, all right. So, and did you like the movie?
Yeah.
You did,
yeah.
right? So if I now ask you to recall some of the, scenes from the movie, right? Are you gonna be able to do that?
Yeah.
I think for sure, because when you watch the movie, you were intensely curious. Yeah, it's like watching your favorite TV show, right? And you watch it only once, and almost everything just sticks in your mind. Because I think the science of it is when you're curious about something, your brain treats it as essential information essential to your survival, right? And it gets instantly recorded, saved in your mind, right?
But
so, like with me, for the record, I don't keep a word list anymore, because every time I'm learning a new phrase and expression, right, I just associate it with a particularly interesting event, right, or something exciting, something intriguing, and that's how it sticks in my mind. So, yeah. Like today, I was doing a listening practice test. An interesting phrase popped up, turn up, which is a synonym for show up, right? I didn't make any note of it, right? I only made note of that word in my mind. And the way I did it was I thought of an image in my head and like some funny event or interesting event. And I associated that event with the phrase turn up, right? And yeah, that's practically how it works with me, and I'm sure it works with a lot of people too, right? Because it's backed up by science. Like curiosity it can be a real game changer as far as memorizing something goes.
Yeah.
When
you made me think. Like I said, I remember like teachers that I really enjoyed watching, observing, whose classes are like immensely, enjoyed. And I guess they were partly responsible for my curiosity in that subject. They would like fire me up every time I would sit in their class.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes I question myself because I really would like to teach students in an interesting and engaging way. It's not easy. It's no easy job. Because I remember like the way we studied. I mean, you remember that it was rote learning, sitting, translating. Quite boring, but just imagine what a little bit of enthusiasm and passion, what kind of difference they would have made. Because they did actually make a huge difference in our cases as we grew up. We started to get like so much more into the subject, into the thing we're teaching, into the thing we're doing. Yeah, I would love to find a way, hopefully I will, to get students... to get my students interested in whatever I'm teaching to them. Yeah, that would be super cool, honestly. And you're right, 100% right. I'm just thinking right now how to get my students engaged, interested.
No, there are a bunch of actually different ways you can do it. You could, try showing them videos or images in the class, right? So the way we do it here at Astra is we use TV as point of engagement. So every time there's an interesting expression or a phrase or any new concept, we instantly go on. We just go on Google and pull up some images or maybe watch a video together on YouTube, right? Not always stick to this traditional way of read, translate, interpret.
Thank you.
But take a little break and watch something on TV, right? Look at some images on Google, right? Try turning it into a memorable experience. I guess you can call it that, right? Yeah. I'm looking forward to to the day I will be able to just what would you call it? Like to get my students' interest. I really like it. I really like when students enjoy my classes, honestly.
And for whatever reason, the guys on the internet, on Telegram, whenever I teach classes, they're super engaged. They love it. Unlike my students in like real classrooms, I feel like they come there because like they sometimes have to. I mean, they literally have to. Yeah. But again, people on Telegram, my audience, they always seem a little bit more excited about my classes. And I don't know who to blame. And it's not about blaming, but figuring out the reason why. Because if I figure out why it happens, that would be great.
Right.
Yeah, I wanted to know why. Next section.
All right. Let's talk about listening then. Any practical tips on...
I would tell you what stopped me from getting a 9 in listening 5 times before. During the exam, for whatever reason, I sometimes get lost while listening. I don't know if it happens to you. Like in part 3, they sometimes talk like for way too long before getting to the question. And what happened in my exams is that before they started to talk about that, they were like just, I don't know, talking about unrelated, irrelevant stuff. And I just got lost in my thoughts. Just got lost.
You just would
drift thinking
off,
about lunch. Thinking about lunch. All of a sudden, I started thinking about lunch. It happened 5 times in a row. Like 5 times in a row, for whatever reason, I just lost my concentration. So what can people do? One practical tip, probably train their focus. Get rid of all short form content like you do here at Astra. If I'm not mistaken, you get your students to delete Instagram. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Short form content kills your brain 100%, and it did kill my focus. And before taking IELTS, I actually deleted like Instagram. I was using shorts like very little. So for listening, apart from vocabulary part, I guess training your focus and deleting social media platforms with short form content like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube would be great. It would definitely great. It goes a long way, especially with like your attention span. You agree with that? No?
Oh, for sure, 100%. Because my feeling is, with a lot of high-level students, the biggest problem is simply concentration, right? If you're already getting 8.5 and wondering why it's never 9, then it's your focus you might want to fix. Like learn how to stay focused for a prolonged amount of time, which is something I actually talked about on the previous episode of the podcast with the guest we had, Mr. Muhammad Anas, and he said something along those lines as well. So but what do you think with those students who are stuck on band 6 and trying to get to 7.58 level? What do you think is the biggest problem?
Again, it's part 3 and part 4 that usually pose a great challenge to students. I think your students encounter the problems in those parts. Yes, no?
Mostly 3? Section 2 and section 3.
Well, because you have a lot of multiple choice questions. I guess one of the things that definitely can help is having a lot of experience. The more practice you have, the more comfortable you are with a lot of like different options given, like especially in part 3. That's that's exactly what helped me, is getting comfortable. I was like, there's too much. Then I did 5 tests in a row, and after 5 tests, I was like, it's fun.
No, I don't think that's a good idea. Doing 5 practice tests back to back.
No, not back to back. Like I'm talking about like a few days.
Within a few days. Then
getting comfortable with those number of questions. I was like, after some time, I really got comfortable. So for me, it was like just the sheer amount of practice that made the difference. 1, 2, it was vocabulary. Again, I'm coming back to vocabulary. I feel like people right now listening to that would be like, it's cliche, but man, that's that's the entire point of a new language. Learning new words. There is so much input you need to put into your head before producing something. It is just crazy. It's just crazy the amount of input you have to be taking in. So for me, vocabulary practice does make difference. in maps, I think you need to know a little bit about geographical locations like west, east, south, and north. If you get lost with that, students sometimes get lost with that. You need to know that left, right, across the street, opposite. Okay. Then I think I've seen a lot of these maps that use shapes like rectangular, square, circular. If you don't know those words, I think you get to know them.
Or if someone doesn't know, rectangular is not the same shape as square, then you'd obviously get lost.
They can actually trick you with that. They put two buildings, one rectangular, one square, and like the square one, and they like think which one is square. Yeah, that would be a practical tip one. I know this technique, note taking, but again, it's not a game changer, but it can contribute in a positive way. Just taking notes instead of so when you have matching, so what I did a few times, I took the matching exercises. I removed the options above. You know, like in the box they have the options. So for myself, I removed them, and I was looking only at the things that were like at the list of words provided below. And whatever they were saying about one particular thing, I would just write down as many notes as possible. You do it like 3 or 4 times, and you figure out that that you start feeling when to write down which words. I don't know why it felt. I need to start writing right now.
I can actually sort of explain why this technique works, right? So with note taking, what you're doing when you do matching questions and also multiple choice questions, when you take notes, you are multitasking, but you're doing it in a smart way, right? So what most students, what they do is when they're doing matching and multiple choice questions is they are listening and reading at the same time.
And they're reading the options and the...
So they're listening and reading at the same time. So their attention is split, right? And multitasking only works when one of the two activities is something that doesn't require conscious effort, like conscious thinking. Right? So like you can multitask when you're eating. You can eat and check your phone at the same time, right? And you don't need the conscious part of you to eat because it's subconscious, right? But with listening test, listening and reading, they're both activities that require full concentration. So the mistake they make is they trying to, split their attention when in fact they should channel their focus into one direction. So, but when you're taking notes, you're only doing one of the two tasks. You're only listening, and that's why it's so effective, right? It's not so much because you're taking notes, so much because you are, for the first time, right? You're only focusing on one thing, not two things.
Undivided focus.
So the way I instruct students to do multiple choice questions or matching in the test with the listening test is I tell them that they should, at the beginning of the section, they are given like 20 seconds to look at the questions, and they should read and try to memorize as much of the information as possible. So when the track starts playing, they are not spending much of their thinking, much of their attention reading, and spending most of their attention just listening to the track, right? So you are multitasking, but 10% reading, 90% listening, right? So this is what I'm telling them to do. So you should multitask, but
in a smart way.
Reading secondary, listening primary. So, but to be able to do that, though, you should read and try to memorize as much of the stuff there as possible. So read, compress all that information, multiple choice questions, right? You got multiple options there. So come up with one word for each option, right? Keyword, and memorize all those words. So when the track starts playing, you're mostly listening and only 10% of the time looking at the booklet, right? So this way, odds of you getting more correct answers are higher, right?
100%. I completely agree with you.
So you should multitask, but you should do it smart. That's my point.
Right? That's a great point.
And that's the reason why note-taking works. Not so much because you are actually, instead of multitasking, you're just doing one thing, you're just postponing it. But I think it's kind of risky because you may not have enough time at the end of the section to go through all the points there. Right.
That's why I usually teach my students to experiment with that before the test.
Right.
To learn to find their own specific way to do all of these exercises. I experimented myself. It didn't work really well for me, but it helped. As you said, concentrate a little more.
So on top of that, if the note-taking technique works for you, it doesn't mean that the technique is good. It simply means you're good at listening and taking notes, right? Right. Because they say a bunch of different things, right? And if you're making notes and you make note of the right parts of the track, that it just shows that you're actually a good listener. It doesn't prove that the technique necessarily works. Yeah. Right.
Good point.
So instead, what I recommend you do is, at the end of the previous section, you got like 30 seconds. At the beginning of the next section, you got another 30 seconds. You got yourself a whole minute to go over the first set of the questions, right? And try memorizing as much of it as you can. Compress all that information, not memorize the entire sentence. So option A says they want to go on a trip. Option B says they want to stay home. Option C says they want to surf the net. Right, so each option has got a keyword that sets it apart from the other options, like go on trip, home, surf the net. That's it. Just memorize the whole.
Keep it in mind.
Yeah, I just memorize the entire question. I don't have to go back and read it, unless something comes up, and that I have to pay more attention to details there. Right.
Smart. Yeah, I like it. I think I'll definitely explain in the future, like listening. I think it's a great way to explain it. Okay.
Right.
Next section.
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about speaking now. Why is that reaction?
I mean, speaking. I think unless there is a certain amount of input, unless there's a certain amount of words you've learned, putting that out and speaking to people would be difficult. So I guess the first and foremost is that you need to have the right amount of vocabulary to be able to speak. And I guess learning sample answers might help. Learning new vocabulary might help. But the best thing that helped my students so far is being accountable. So at least having an accountability partner. And for many of them, the accountability partner is me. So I basically say, Mohammed Ali, you need to today, I will ask questions from this part one topic. And students start getting ready. And their response is impeccable, beautiful, perfect. Those students end up getting a 9 and 8.5 in speaking, usually. So I guess a great amount of progress comes through practice, because my vocal cords, they hurt when I speak English. When I used to speak English at the beginning, it hurt, literally physical pain, because my vocal cords, I guess they need to readjust to a different language. In a different language, you sound different, you speak different. So I guess practice does help. Just speaking more. Then after you start speaking, I guess the quality of that practice also matters. So I think at Astra, you get your students to learn sample answers that they make themselves.
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
So we get them to learn sample answers for mostly, to build more knowledge base, to build some more vocabulary around a certain topic. And so that they get to also learn more about the topic itself in general. They get some new ideas, right? But for building confidence and being flexible and getting a feel for speaking, we get them to come up with their own answers on the spot in the class. So we have a few regular classes where they're supposed to look up answers and memorize them, and once every week they get what we call a freestyle speaking class, where they get to basically have a mock speaking interview, right? So we got blend of two, like a little bit of both, right? So
yeah,
this is our strategy here.
Yep. I think I might have forgotten, because I usually ask, like, most of the time students to learn to memorize most of the stuff. But I think you're right. You need to do, like, sometimes do it spontaneously.
Right. It really depends on their level as well. Like, say if there's intermediate or like pre-intermediate level, then they're better off learning someone else's sentences, lines, and just repeat them, right, until they develop they learn how to follow a structure. They know how to speak coherently. They know what a collocation is. Start using more phrases, right? Not just speak their own version of English, which I call Uzbek English or Tajik English, sometimes Russian English, but start speaking actual English, right? And then once you see your students start producing more authentic English, right, and you can tell it by the number of collocations they use or how often they use topic-related vocabulary. You get them to practice those set of words with different questions, right?
Yeah, awesome.
So this is sort of our strategy here.
Yeah, I liked it. Yep. You got any tips for writing? I guess feedback helps, but guys need to understand that at the beginning, again, it's a lot about input. So what I mean is you will probably at the beginning need to read a lot of model essays, a lot of sample responses to kind of gather enough vocabulary to put out while writing a report, a task one report. So I guess at the beginning, reading a few sample and model answers might help. Then once you start writing, you need to be getting feedback at a regular basis, because you sometimes make mistakes with prepositions. Like students make mistakes. Let's say they put at the wrong place or in the wrong place. And I tell them, like, Muhammad Ali, yes, you know that you're putting in the wrong place. You should use on. And you're like, yes, Jakhongir, I got it. Next time you're not making this mistake. Your grammar goes up from 5 to 6. I think it's just as simple as that, one of the things. So reading sample essays, sample task one reports, writing, and getting feedback. Of course, you need to know a little bit about the structure, not a little bit, a lot about the structure of task one and task two essays and reports, because some of them follow like somewhat like unusual structure, sometimes different, sometimes this, sometimes that. And it would be great, of course, to have a mentor or teacher to teach you that. Yeah, when to put your overview, why to put it here, why you shouldn't use words like, I don't know, demonstrate, provided, and when you can use it. So I guess you first need like a teacher, good teacher, basically, to explain the structure. And I really hope that teacher is not overcomplicating stuff. Because back in the day, I remember some teachers like dividing essays into 65 different categories: argumentative, discursive, formal, formulaic, this way, that. And I was really confused. Honestly, I was always freaking confused about writing. But then I figured out that it's all simple, that there is little structure. You follow it, kind of a formula. It doesn't have to be in the same order, that formula. And I was like, it helps a bunch. And what helped me too is understanding that what got me from 7.5 to an 8. I feel like there was one thing that I did, which is developing or dedicating one idea to one paragraph. Like my entire paragraph is usually one paragraph is dedicated to one idea only. So I have one central topic per paragraph. Students usually have 3-4 ideas in one paragraph. You shouldn't smoke because it kills you. You shouldn't smoke because it does that. You shouldn't smoke because it does this. What I do, you shouldn't smoke. Why, how, and explain my idea. I like chew it. Okay, so it comes out as like kind of a mashed potato at the end. So the examiner doesn't have to, put in any effort trying to digest it. So that's what I do. I actually learned it from your essays. I learned it from Sanakulov Jurabek essays. Really like those because he had just one single paragraph dedicated to one single idea.
Yeah, that's a really nice tip. So take your time and explain the point in detail, right? So rather than packing your paragraph with a bunch of different ideas, right? Take the time to answer those questions your reader might have, like how, what do you mean by that? But what's your conclusion? What's your final point? Do you have any example? Yeah, so it's really important that you cover all those questions in your paragraph. Yeah,
I like it. Yeah, and in task 1, I think a really great tool is ChatGPT, because ChatGPT showed me so many different ways I can paraphrase stuff in a non-traditional way, because usually people, for example, might say this shows something, but I figured out that I can use the expression something emerges as, and it's completely fine. It works, works really fine, vocabulary wise, like lexical resource, it's really great. And I was like little by little learning all of these little bits of new vocabulary from ChatGPT's responses and plugging it into my own task ones. And eventually I felt like I was like very, very comfortable writing task 1 and 2. Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah, this is a lot to take in for students out there. Okay, you might want to guys pause here now and then when watching this podcast and go back and replay parts, right? And maybe use Google to look up some of the things we're talking about here, or just leave your questions in the comments section and we'll do our best to get back to them, right? Okay, now I want to talk a little about your new project, online project you're running, and I noticed this little quote you got on your bio on your channel. It's in Uzbek, but I'm going to be
quality education.
Yeah, I'm going to try to translate it into English here. So you said quality education taught in a fun way. So what do you mean by that? Can you give us an example, an idea of what fun class is like?
Well, I wouldn't say fun, but more like an interesting way, so that the guys are not just what would you call it, spoon fed.
All that information.
They also do something on their own. So what I do in my online classes on Telegram with my audience on my main channel is whenever I teach something. Before teaching something, I ask questions. So, for example, do you know that task 1 consists of, let's say, 10 parts? Yes, no. Then I explain, okay, guys, this is not how many parts it consists of. This is how many parts like a task 1 should comprise. And I kept the audience engaged throughout all of that lesson. So I, for example, write an introduction, then I have my audience write an introduction. I check their introductions, then I explain who made mistake here, who made mistake here, who made mistake here. And along the way, I make a few jokes, because I do understand that it's not going to be that easy to keep your focus like at all times when you're just doing, writing task. Sometimes for example, with my students, I tell them if I don't write this number of words, I will buy them a lunch or something,
Oh,
and then
really?
and then I start adding some nonsense stuff that actually makes sense, but doesn't have to be there, yeah, in my task ones. So I feel like it's just fun because I see the reactions they're sending, those smile emojis. It tells me that they're engaged, they're there, they're listening. And then I give them some value, we discuss it, then along the, while explaining, I try to, again, make a few jokes, try to explain whatever I'm explaining in a super digestible way. I want whatever I teach to be super digestible, like straightforward. And I usually give them life-like examples. For example, instead of a pie chart about economies, or like land degradation, I can give them a pie chart about my sleeping schedule. Like I sleep 25 hours a day. They love it. They just love it. It's just funny. Or a table where I can, talk about some taboo topic, but again, not very taboo, but something interesting there. And cigarettes, alcohol. Guys love it. They just, laugh about it. And that's what I personally feel like is teaching in a fun way. So making sure that students are not just getting only value, but they're also enjoying getting that value. Because I feel like for me, how can I put it? I think the most consistent people, they actually love what they do. I think, Ali Abdal?
I actually do watch him on YouTube. I do follow him on social media.
He said that that there was this guy who said, I'm not going to do whatever the thing is unless I can do it forever. But when can you do it forever? When there is a feel-good factor involved.
But you got to admit that sometimes passion is not really there. Right? It's totally human nature. It's even when you love it, sometimes you just wake up and kind of feel off. You don't feel like going to school.
But you do it.
Even if it's your favorite subject, you don't feel like, hitting the gym some days, even if you love lifting weights. Sometimes you don't feel like showing up to class and teaching, but you do it anyway, right? So wouldn't you say discipline also makes a difference?
It does. It does. I mean, if we talk about IELTS, it 100% does, because we do understand language is almost all about learning. It's all about learning, memorizing. It's a lot of memorization. You just need to memorize a lot of structures, a lot of words, a lot of cohesive devices, linking words. You just have to remember that, a lot of it, and it all comes down to discipline. If you, for 6 months, every day did reading passages, you naturally at the end you'll come out as a person who's really good at doing reading passages. I think it does make difference in that. But I'm right now thinking about a different topic. Recently, I got into this. The guy was talking about the discipline or something is going to make you successful and stuff, and I was like, no, man. It's in a traditional sense, discipline is not the thing that's going to make you super successful in life. I mean, it's a different topic. We can leave it for probably second episode.
No, for sure. We're going to have a few more episodes with you. But anyway, would you like to tell us that story?
So the guy was basically saying that for you to be successful, you need to be, waking up early and stuff. And I was like, I haven't seen a single guy who's successful personally, who wakes up every day for the last 10 or 5 years at the same time, goes to sleep at the same time, eats
robotic. It's so robotic.
I'm like, no, man. No. Again, it was Ali Abdal. He said there is a lot of that good feel good factor involved in whatever you do. It's really important. And if we talk about being successful in traditional sense, I feel like in many cases those successful people that I know, they are very kind of lucky. I like Mark Cuban for that, because he, in one of his videos, he said for you to be a billionaire, you need a lot of luck. Without luck, making that happen, no, it's really impossible. So I feel like many people who are millionaires and billionaires, they are hardworking 100%, but I feel like that luck did play a huge part in them becoming successful, because I feel like they were at the right time, at the right moment. Like Jeff Bezos, he created the website at the right time, at the right moment when there was a demand. I mean, imagine if Elon Musk, for example, created rockets 200 years ago. There was no fuel, but there are rockets. Like, for example, no demand, supply demand. I mean, the markets are driven by that. And I feel like if you are at the right moment supplying the right demand, you will be successful.
But you can't exactly live your life waiting for that one perfect moment.
100%.
Right?
You create it. You can create it 100%. But repeating that success, I think, is difficult.
It's
difficult.
I can confirm that from experience. I've been trying to get my third 9, but no such luck so far. No such luck so far.
Yeah. So that was an interesting topic we were discussing with him. He was trying to teach. I was like just trying to tell the audience that you need to be doing the right thing, like discipline, hard work. These buzzwords, they're so overrated for me.
But you need those things anyway, right?
Like, I would say in the right proportions. Yeah, I think again still need to. I feel like with this you can achieve success, but with this it doesn't mean you will achieve success. Yeah, it might definitely accelerate it, like, speed up the process, but I don't think it's going to guarantee success. Just waking up every day at 7 a.m. and, no, I don't think it's 100% guarantees. It might speed up the process. Might.
But anyway, waking up early in the day is better than sleeping in until 10, 11, right? And getting very little done in the day. It just makes you less productive.
100%.
Right?
Agree. Yeah. But again, what I'm saying is that you shouldn't buy that stuff and think that living a disciplined life is going to guarantee. No, it's a lot of networking, it's a lot of searching, it's a lot of digging. You need to do a lot of digging into whatever subject you're studying or want to get really good at.
So whatever it is, you have to be relentless.
Probably
relentless and constant pursuit of answers.
Yeah. And I feel like, again, networking also helps a lot for me personally, because through networking, many people told me that, Mohammed, that you are saying, for example, this thing in the wrong way. If you say it in this way, you will get this result. Yeah, I had these people who told me that. Like, I was teaching an online class and they told me, no, Jakhongir, change it. Changed it, like completely different picture, completely different results in a positive way. All
right, so I feel like we went over a lot of stuff today, and it was so much fun talking to you, Mr. Jakhongir. And I can't thank you enough for coming on the show today and sharing with us all these personal stories, experiences.
Likewise, man, likewise.
And so many useful tips for people out there. And, sharing these stories with these people, with our audience here, and your mistakes, you made in the past, so people don't have to make these mistakes. They don't have to learn the lessons you learned the hard way, right? And they don't have to make these mistakes. I mean, they can just get all these insights and learn their lessons and go and build a better future and better life for themselves. Well, again, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. I'd love to see you on the podcast a few more times.
Hopefully.
Yeah, so tell our audience where they can find you on social media.
So I have my Telegram channel right now. It's called Jakhongir IELTS 9. Then I have an Instagram account. It's called Jakhongir Band 9. So they can follow me on those, social media platforms. I'll be super happy to see everybody there. And I hope that my channels and my Instagram account and my channel will help you in your IELTS journey or in your life in general, because I also share some life tips, tips on like life in general. Yeah, they can find me there. Yeah.
All right. Really appreciate that. And we're gonna be leaving your links on in the description box below anyway.
Yeah.
So we got it. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. I hope you liked it, and if you did, please don't forget to like our video and subscribe to our channel and leave your comments in the comment section below. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Bye.